Welcome back to Court TV Live. I'm Ashley Wilcott. Thank you so much for joining us. Now let's get back to Massachusetts, where testimony is underway and the high-profile trial of a woman accused of killing her police officer boyfriend. Prosecutors accused defendant Karen Reed of hitting John O'Keefe with her car when dropping him off at a party with his fellow officers at a home and then leaving him there to die in the snow. Let's go back in now. Our responding officer has just taken the stand for the Commonwealth. You haven't missed any of his testimony.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Could you please state your name and spell your last name for the record?
My name is Officer Saraf, S-A-R-A-F, Canton Police Department.
And how long have you been a member of the Canton Police Department?
About 27 years.
Now, were you working with the Canton Police Department on January 28th into January 29th of 2022?
I was.
Do you recall what shift you were working on that occasion?
I was working midnight to 8 shift.
Midnight to 8 a.m., is that correct?
That is correct.
And were you dispatched to a call at approximately 6:05 a.m.?
Yes, I was.
And if you recall, what was the dispatch in regard to, and where specifically were you dispatched to?
It was a call of a person that was unconscious outside, I believe it was 34 Fairview Road in Canton.
Now, that particular area of Canton, are you familiar with that area of Canton?
Yes.
And as far as the town of Canton is concerned with respect to police department, is there sort of different sectors within the town that you would be assigned to patrol?
That's correct.
And the area of Fairview Road, would that be within your sector that you would typically patrol?
That was West Sector.
And how many sectors within the town of Canton are there?
4.
Now, that particular area of Fairview Road, what type of area is that? Is it residential, commercial, or something else?
It's residential.
And the roadway of Fairview Road, there's houses on that roadway, is that correct?
That's correct.
Is there any sort of, it's a paved roadway, is that correct?
It is, yes.
The lanes, are they divided by any sort of lines in the middle of it?
Yes.
And who, if anyone, owns or maintains that particular roadway?
The town of Canton does.
Now, you received that dispatch. Where were you, if you recall, when you received the dispatch?
I was, there's a church right next to the police station. I was in that parking lot.
And with respect to the evening of the 28th into the morning of the 29th, what, if anything, were you aware of as far as sort of forecast of the weather or anything sort of impending coming in?
Yeah, it was snowing pretty good that night. It was a snowstorm that evening.
So there's a snowstorm that had been predicted, is that correct?
I believe so, yeah.
Okay. And there was a snowstorm actually occurring around that time, just after 6 a.m.
That is correct.
And at the time that you're responding, a little after 6 a.m., was it light out, dark out, or something else?
It was dark out.
And the time, if you know, how much time elapsed sort of between the time that you received the call and the time that you arrived in that area of Fairview Road?
It's pretty close, so a couple of minutes maybe, because I didn't obviously go as fast as you could go because the roads were pretty snowy.
During the course of, you have been working sort of since midnight, correct?
Correct.
And over the course of your work throughout that evening, had you, or what, if anything, had you noticed with regard to snow removal as far as town plows or anything like that?
I don't understand. Were they plowing? Is that your question? They were plowing the roads.
Okay. So there had been some sort of treatment or plowing to the roads prior to your response, as far as you know?
Yes, yes.
What were sort of the road conditions or the visibility or anything like that, if you recall, during your response time?
It was snowing pretty well. The roads were definitely slippery. It took me a while to get to the destination.
And if you recall, sir, what was sort of the path of travel that you took from, you mentioned you were in the church parking lot next to the police station, correct?
That's correct.
And where is the police station located in Canton?
So the police station's on Washington Street, 1492 Wash.
And so what was sort of the path of travel that you took from the church lot next to the police station to Fairview?
So I went past the police station onto Chapman Street, and then from Chapman Street, I went to Fairview Road.
And when you were approaching Fairview Road, are you taking a right or left or something?
It's a right.
And as you were taking that right onto Fairview, what, if anything, happened with your vehicle as you were taking that turn?
Nothing that I recall.
And that particular, coming from the Chapman side of Fairview, Fairview goes from Chapman and then it goes down to sort of, let's say, the bottom of the street. It connects with another street, is that correct?
That's correct.
And what is the street that?
Cedar Crest?
Cedar. And if you're coming from the Chapman side down to the Cedar Crest side, what, if anything, is there as far as an elevation? Like, is it uphill, downhill, or flat?
It's down a hill, fairly decent-sized hill.
Now, as you are driving down Fairview, what, if anything, I mentioned it was dark outside, correct?
That's correct.
So what, if anything, beyond sort of the headlights on your cruiser, did you utilize for assistance as you were driving down?
All right, still with us, criminal defense attorneys Jack Rice, Josh Schiffer. I think it's interesting the amount of detail that the state is getting out of this first responder, but the reality is it sets the stage, talking about the snowstorm the night before. At 6 a.m., it's still dark outside. Josh, how is this going?
This is great. This is some of the best stuff state's done. I don't know where they dug up Franz Borghardt, my cousin, to do this and gave him a Massachusetts cop accent. But this is exactly what they want. This guy's 100% believable, doesn't have a dog in the fight. He's out there doing his job, is straightforward, is authentic, completely reliable, not manipulating this or trying to emotionally press it. Again, this feeds into the almost calm certainty that I believe DA Lawley is really trying to go for, where this isn't that big or emotional or huge or crazy a case. It's really easy, everybody. It's a straight up, she ran him over.
And let's talk about all let's talk about all the details, jury, because we're not hiding anything. We'll tell you everything about what he found when he got there. Two other questions for you, Jack. You can comment on the witness, but also someone asked about the person with what looks to be a gas mask over their face. We know that's a court reporter. I'll let you comment on that. But also Karen Reed, a lot of viewers are saying someone really has spoken to her about the best demeanor because she doesn't look overly emotional. She does, that they just think she's reading well for the jury.
No, I want to go to that last one because it's so important. When we think about preparing for trial, I mean, as lawyers, frequently what ends up happening is you're thinking about the witnesses you're going to put on and the people that you're going to cross and the evidence and making sure you're going to get it in, how you're going to do openings and jury selection. And you go through this entire process, but you miss one fundamental aspect, and that's your client and how they're perceived. We've all talked about this certainly in studio, but when a jury is watching this, they're watching these individual witnesses, but what they're also doing is they're ping-ponging back and forth between the witness in the box and the defendant themselves. They're looking at Karen Reed and they're thinking about how she is reacting to the statements being made. This is so incredibly important because if you're trying to convey shock, she can do that if she's trying to. If she's trying to convey sadness or anger or frustration, she can do that too. So you can drive a jury in many different ways. It sounds manipulative, but trust me, everybody in the room is manipulating this. The prosecutors are doing it, the defense is doing it, frequently the judges, everybody is trying to do that, and that's important.
And I would agree with our viewers that she looks credible sitting there at the defense table. And Josh, to your point, this witness sounds very credible, as did the first two witnesses. So I think so far we have a pretty even-handed table being set by the state in the case. Josh, really quick.
And remember, they've moved this into the tiny courtroom.
Yeah.
This is a really complex or compact space, so that emotion, it's right in your face.
Great point. All right, we have to squeeze in a break. Of course, when we come back, we'll go back inside court for you to see more in the case against Karen Reed. Stay tuned.
Tonight on Closing Arguments, opening statements in the killer or cover-up murder trial, Karen Reed is accused of leaving her police officer boyfriend to die in the snow after hitting him with her SUV. Join me tonight live from Massachusetts as this high-profile trial gets underway. Plus, the Doomsday Prophet murder trial continues in Idaho. We'll break down key moments you may have missed from today's testimony.
Closing Arguments with Vinnie Politan, tonight at 8/7 Central, only on Court TV.
And we are back watching the murder trial underway for Karen Reed in Massachusetts. Reed stands accused of killing her police officer boyfriend outside the home of one of his fellow officers. But her attorneys accused police of covering up a fight that happened inside the home, then killing the victim. On the stand now is an officer. He was the first responder to the scene. We did hit the pause button. Let's go back in to hear what else he has to say about what happened.
Driver's side, a handheld spotlight to try to locate the house in question.
And if I could just ask you a little bit about the type of vehicle that you were driving. So was it, what kind of police cruiser were you driving?
It's Explorer.
So SUV, is that right?
Yes, SUV, yes.
And as far as those, or the particular cruiser that you were driving on that occasion, what, if anything, is it equipped with as far as cameras or anything like that within the vehicle?
Yeah, it's equipped with a camera for front and back, and in the rear seat of the cruiser.
And so as you're driving down Fairview, you reach out and start to utilize your spotlight sort of on, where is that located on the cruiser?
It's on my left-hand side.
And is that a spotlight that's outside of the cruiser or inside of the cruiser? Where is it located
On the outside of the cruiser, but there's a handle that manipulates it so you can point the spotlight where you want to go.
Okay, so you have some sort of tool within the cruiser where you can manipulate where it points?
That's correct.
And as you're coming down Fairview, utilizing that spotlight, what, if anything, do you observe out in front of you?
Well, as I got to my destination, I saw 3 people on the lawn of in the snow, waving at me.
And initially, when you see these 3 people in the snow, do you have any idea sort of who they are, or male, female, anything like that?
There were 3 women, and I later learned there was a male subject on the ground.
And so when you initially are sort of approaching or getting to the residence, you indicate you see the 3 women waving at you. Could you see, or what, if anything, could you see the body at that point?
I saw that there was somebody on the ground, yes.
So you could see the 3 women and you could see a person on the ground.
That's correct.
And at some point, subsequent to this, did you learn the identity of the person on the ground?
I did.
And who did you learn that
John
person?
O'Keefe.
And prior to this dispatch, did you know John O'Keefe in any way?
No.
Now, the 3 females that you saw sort of around Mr. O'Keefe's body on the ground, at some point later, did you subsequently identify who those 3 people were?
I did.
And who did you identify?
One was Karen Reed. The other one was Miss McCabe and Miss Roberts, I believe.
All right, sir, I'm going to ask you to keep your voice up, okay, or speak into the microphone.
Sorry.
It's okay.
Now, you arrive on scene, and I'm assuming you get out of your cruiser. Is that correct?
That's correct.
What, if anything, did you do from there?
I walked over to the scene. I first asked, is this person, a drug user? Does he have an issue with drugs? Somebody said, no, he's a Boston police officer. I said, okay. I checked for a pulse. I couldn't find a pulse. Then I went back to my cruiser and tried to find the AED, which is an automated external defibrillator.
Back just for a second there. So you indicated that you checked for a pulse, correct?
That's correct.
And where on Mr. O'Keefe did you check for?
On his neck, his carotid.
Sort of his carotid, is that correct?
That's correct.
And when you made contact with sort of the skin area in his carotid area on his neck, what, if anything, did you observe as far as Mr. O'Keefe when you did that?
I couldn't find any pulse or anything like that, and he was cold to the touch.
Now, when you did this, Mr. O'Keefe, you mentioned, was sort of on the ground, correct?
That's correct.
And how was he sort of positioned on the ground?
He was laying on his back.
And as far as your observations of Mr. O'Keefe during this initial time when you're checking the pulse, what, if anything, did you observe sort of on him or around him or anything like that at that?
I didn't really.
Let me ask it a different way. So as far as...
All right, still with us, criminal defense attorneys Jack Rice, Josh Schiffer. Here's what stood out to me. That question was great when he said, no, I did not know John O'Keefe in any way. That takes the steam away from the defense, but let's get your final thoughts. Jack, you first, please.
When I think about this, the theory and theme of the case for the defense is the Commonwealth's got nothing. And in this case, we have an officer who appears and he says, yes, John O'Keefe is dead. There's no one questioning that. And what you're going to do is simply let that sit there, because it isn't about what they're presenting. It's about everything that they're not. And it's enormous amounts of information. They're jumped to every conclusion, but you don't need that during direct or in cross. You simply wait to closing and say, how about this, and this?
Yeah, I agree with that. Josh, your final thoughts, please, sir.
You know, I'm waiting for the state to really drop its hammer, because the state does have some really great facts. And we're all waiting to see how the defense is going to respond to that. Is it going to be lack of sufficiency? Is it going to be corruption? But this one's just building up. We're going to see the crescendo, I think, first thing tomorrow morning. It's going to get wild in Canton.
Yeah, absolutely agree with you both. Real quickly, Jack Rice, do you think the defendant will testify in a case like this where she says cover up?
No. I don't think she needs to. At least at this point, all you have to sit down and do is show every hole that's in the state's case. And boy, it's Swiss cheese right now.
Josh, do you agree or disagree real quickly?
I agree with Jack. Unless things change, she should not stand up, because the state doesn't have enough there.
Yeah, I think you may be right. All right, thank you to Jack Rice and Josh Schiffer, my Josh, always for joining me. Michael Ayala joins me next for more testimony in the Karen Reed trial. Stay with us. We'll be right back here on Court TV, your front row seat to justice.
Hello, welcome back to Court TV Live. I'm Michael Ayala.
And I'm Judge Ashley Wilcott. Ahead this hour, the woman who impersonated a Child Protective Services worker and tried to lure a 4-year-old boy from his home takes a plea deal on the same day her trial was supposed to begin.
Also, testimony continues in the murder trial of doomsday prophet Chad Daybell.
And opening statements begin in the highly anticipated trial in Massachusetts of a woman accused of running over her police officer boyfriend and then leaving him to die.
The long-awaited murder trial for Karen Reed is underway in Massachusetts.
She faces several charges in relation to the death of her boyfriend, Boston police officer John O'Keefe, after a night out drinking together. Those charges include second-degree murder.
All right, let's get you back into court now, where Canton police officer Steven Saraf is still on the stand. He's facing direct examination.
And so how much snow was in and around or on top of Mr. O'Keefe when you first observed?
It was about, I would say about 6 inches on the ground. There was a light dusting on top of him, I would say.
And what, if any, observations did you make of Mr. O'Keefe and sort of how he was dressed at this time initially that you observed?
I don't recall what he was wearing.
Now, with reference to the residence at 34 Fairview Road, if you're standing in front of the house on the street facing the house, which side of the property was Mr. O'Keefe lying on his back?
As you're facing the house, it's to the, I'm sorry, go again? Can you say that again, please?
So if you're standing on the street facing the house, was Mr. O'Keefe more to the center of the property, the right of the property, or the left?
He was on the left of the property, yes.
Now, in addition to Mr. O'Keefe, in this sort of area on the left side of the property, what, if any, sort of other landmarks or other things that you observe on that side of the property?
To the left of the property, there was a fire hydrant, a bush, and a flagpole, I believe. To the left, to the farther left, like more near the property line, I would say.
Now, with reference to, you mentioned that it was snowing out and there was snow on the ground, correct?
That's correct.
What, if anything else, did you note as far as the weather conditions, as far as wind, temperature, or anything like that?
It was, I would say it was near blizzard conditions. It was snowing really, really hard.
And how cold, obviously January, it's snowing out, it was cold, but how cold was it, if you know, when you first arrived?
Less than 32 degrees, I don't know exactly. I mean, it was cold.
So you pull up in that area with the three females. Are they to your right or to your left?
I pulled up, basically, I had my cruiser straight on.
And so which side of the cruiser were the three females and Mr. O'Keefe when you pull up and stop?
It was straight ahead.
Straight ahead, okay. And
a little to the left.
And what, if any, other vehicles did you observe sort of in the roadway in that area where three females were and Mr. O'Keefe?
There was another vehicle in the roadway on the side of the road. I parked basically right behind that.
And do you recall anything about that vehicle, like what type it was, what color, or anything like that?
I don't recall.
Now, with regard to the three females you identified as Ms. Reed, Ms. McCabe, and Ms. Roberts, do you recall where they were in relation to Mr. O'Keefe, each of them, when you first sort of pull up and get out of your cruiser?
So when I arrived, I saw Ms. Reed looked like she was giving CPR to him, and she had blood on her face.
Now, in addition to yourself, there are other sort of first responders that are dispatched to this scene as well. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And of them, who, if anyone else, was on scene at the time that you arrived?
When I arrived, I was the first to arrive. Then there was Officer Mullaney that came a few minutes later, and then the fire department came after him, and I believe Sergeant Good came within that. I don't know how many minutes, but it was pretty close.
So you're first to arrive on scene, and then Mullaney comes a couple of minutes later?
Yes.
And about how long was it between when Officer Mullaney arrives and when the fire department arrives?
Couple minutes. I don't.
And at some point after that, a Sergeant Good comes, is that correct?
That's correct.
Sergeant Good is a sergeant with your department?
That is correct.
Okay. Now, the fire department, when they arrived, do you recall what type of apparatus they had that arrived on scene?
I believe it was an engine. They usually come with an engine and an ambulance.
So to your recollection, it was at least an ambulance and an engine?
Yeah, yes.
When you were in transit, sort of coming from the church parking lot next to the station to 34 Fairview, what, if anything, did you have activated on your cruiser as far as lights or sirens or anything like that?
I believe I might have my blue lights on. I'm not sure.
As far as the time that you're coming, this is shortly after 6 a.m. in a blizzard, was there, what, if any, sort of other vehicular traffic did you observe en route from church parking lot to 34 Fairview?
There wasn't any that I can recall.
So you go to get your AED device from your cruiser, is that correct?
That's correct.
And around that time that you're retrieving that, what happens then?
The FD, the fire department, came on scene, and they took over care of Mr. O'Keefe.
Now, beyond sort of just checking pulse, as far as around that time when you were checking the pulse in the carotid area for Mr. O'Keefe, what, if any, other observations did you make with regard to any injuries or anything else on Mr. O'Keefe?
Well, when I first got there, he had blood on his face and it was just wiped away. So that's the only.
So there was blood on his face that was wiped away?
That's correct.
Now, when the fire department arrives on scene and they sort of take over resuscitative efforts with regard to Mr. O'Keefe, is that correct?
That is correct.
And the person you identified as Miss Reed, firstly, do you see that person in the courtroom today?
I do.
Could you just identify as to where she's seated or an article of clothing?
Seating at the table right there, in black.
Your Honor, does ask the record reflect identification defended by the witness?
Yes.
After the fire department arrived and they sort of take over resuscitative efforts with regard to Mr. O'Keefe, what, if any, observations did you make of Miss Reed and what she was doing or saying at that time?
Miss Reed was visibly upset. She kept saying, this is all my fault. This is my fault. I did this. And she was very hysterical.
And
She kept asking, he's dead. Is he dead? Is he dead?
And with that specific phraseology, that's something that she kept saying?
Yes.
And by your repetitive nature, I'm assuming it was said something that she said more than once, correct?
Several times, correct.
And when she's saying this, can you describe sort of how she's saying this? I mean, is it a whisper, is it a scream, or is it something in between?
She was yelling pretty good.
And with regard to her repetitive question as far as is he dead, what, if any, response did you provide to her in regard to that?
I just said they're doing the best that they can. I don't know.
Now, at some point, did you direct Miss Reed, the defendant, to somewhere else away from Mr. O'Keefe?
Yeah, I tried to get her out of the elements. I put her in a car. I don't know if it was my cruiser or another cruiser there, but I had her sit in the back seat just to get out of the snow.
And did she stay in that cruiser for any?
She stayed in for a few minutes, and then she was like up and down, up and down.
So sort of in and out of whatever car you put her into?
That's correct.
When she would come out of the car, where would she go?
She was just walking around. From what I remember,
Now, with reference to Mr. O'Keefe, he's laying on his back on the ground. That location, where was that in relation to the roadway of Fairview Road?
I would say about 20 feet off the road.
So if it's 20 feet off of the road, is it fair to say that was on sort of the front lawn of 34 Fairview?
Yes, that's correct.
And at some point, the fire department takes Mr. O'Keefe's body off of the lawn, is that correct?
That is
And where
correct.
were you in relation to Mr. O'Keefe when that happened?
I don't remember.
And if you don't remember, do you recall anything about sort of what the ground looked like when Mr. O'Keefe was lifted up?
I don't recall. I didn't.
Now, that area around where Mr. O'Keefe was, when you initially come up, you see him on the ground and you check for a pulse. What, if anything, did you note around Mr. O'Keefe's body as far as the condition of or disturbance of the snow around him?
I noticed that there were footprints and track marks around the body itself. There was none coming from the residence or the area. It was just right around the body itself.
And so the position that Mr. O'Keefe is lying on his back on the lawn, correct?
Correct.
Is his head closer to the house or the street or something else?
I believe his head was closest to the house.
And the footprints that you're talking about, was that between sort of his feet in the street or above his head, or where was it in relation to
Basically all around him because people were walking around him.
And as far as beyond sort of the immediate area above his head, between his head the house, what if any footprints or what if any disturbance in the snow did you observe up there?
I didn't see any.
Now, Officer Saraf, about how long was it that you were on scene there?
I want to say about an hour and a half.
And at some point, the fire department transports Mr. O'Keefe from the scene, is that correct?
That is correct.
And do you know to what facility he was transported to?
I don't recall where they went.
And after Mr. O'Keefe was taken away by the fire department, as far as the three females, Miss Reed, Miss McCabe, and Miss Roberts, do you know where they went or what they did following that?
They, after talking to Sergeant Good, they left in their car. I don't know where they went. The car that was there, they left.
Now, at any point in the time that you were on scene before they left, did you have any conversation with any of the three of them?
I asked, you know, where were they, what happened, and what were they doing?
And who specifically did you talk to, if you recall?
Well, I asked Miss Reed, and she couldn't really tell me too much about what happened. Miss McCabe said that they were drinking in a couple bars downtown.
Let me just stop you before, as far as, so just sticking with Miss Reed.
Yep.
You asked her what happened, and you indicated she didn't really tell you much.
No.
Why not? What was her condition like at that point?
She was very upset.
So the same upset that you were describing earlier, did that sort of continue throughout the time that she was on scene while you were there?
I would say yes.
And at some point, did you speak to Miss McCabe without reference to what she told you?
I'm sorry.
At some point while you're on scene, did you speak to either Miss McCabe or Miss Roberts without reference to what they told you?
No. I mean,
let me rephrase it.
Yeah.
At some point when you're on scene, did you have occasion to have a conversation with Miss McCabe?
Yes.
Okay. And at some point when you were on scene, did you have occasion to have a conversation with Miss Roberts?
I didn't speak with Miss Roberts, I don't believe.
Okay. Was there someone else from your department that was speaking with Miss Roberts on scene? You know.
I believe Sergeant Good or Officer Mulaney was.
So one of the other two officers that were there?
Correct.
Now, following Sergeant Good's arrival, who, if anyone else from your department, arrived on scene at some point?
Detective Sergeant Lank, and Lieutenant Gallagher.
And if you know, when was their arrival in relation to sort of when you arrived?
It was light out, so I want to say maybe 7 o'clock-ish.
And so for the period that you were on scene, you said it was about an hour and a half, is that correct?
That's about right.
The weather conditions that you described sort of when you first arrived, what, if any, change occurred in the weather conditions from the time that you arrived and the time that you left the scene?
The conditions lightened up a little bit. I mean, it was still snowing, but...
Still snowing, still...
We need to hit the pause button. The Canton police officer testifies about the weather conditions the night the victim was found dead. We'll bring you more of that. Stay here with us on your front row seat to justice.
Tonight, on closing arguments, opening statements in the killer or cover-up murder trial, Karen Reed is accused of leaving her police officer boyfriend to die in the snow after hitting him with her SUV. Join me tonight live from Massachusetts as this high-profile trial gets underway. Plus, the Doomsday Prophet murder trial continues in Idaho. We'll break down key moments you may have missed from today's testimony.
Closing arguments with Vinnie Politan tonight at 8/7 Central, only on Court TV.
We'll get you back into court in just a moment, but first let's bring in former prosecutor Tommy Pope. Tommy, always great to have you with us. Thank you for that. So this officer was the first officer on the scene. He's describing in great detail the weather conditions. It was 6 a.m. It was still dark out. But as he's describing, and I'm hearing things like the firemen moved him from the yard on to the other part in order to treat him, takes him off the lawn. These things to me mean that there's not going to be great forensic evidence.
I think that's accurate, and that's always the balance when they arrive. If they think there's any chance of saving a life, then, forensic evidence be damned. You're going to do what you got to do. But Judge, you're exactly right. And once you move a crime scene, there's plenty of room for, somebody to say what either was introduced or what was destroyed. And so that's certainly a possibility.
Yeah, but what they do have is they have the defendant's own words, which might even be more damning as far as that goes, because we're talking about her saying, and this guy will eventually testify, that she says, oh, I did this to him. This is me, right? I did this. This is my fault. And later on, she, of course, says that's not the case, but this happened in the moment. If I'm going to believe something, I'm going to believe what you say in the moment when emotion is highest.
Well, Michael, as you know, admissibility-wise, heat of passion is one of the times you can look at, credibility as far as a judge admitting something was to be said. So, obviously this was a statement about the defendant also, but we normally give more credibility to something when it's said in that type of environment, in the heat of passion. It's interesting to me, too. It's difficult, the nature of the charges in the context of this was my fault or I did this. Not necessarily malice, but acceptance of responsibility. If you didn't have the difficulty and the convoluted nature of the charges, it's almost everybody could agree she did it. Now, was it an accident? Was it malice? What to do about it? And I think that's where you get in these layers that the jury's going to have to sort out.
Yeah, I agree 100%. It's all about her state of mind.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? Did she know she hit him? Did she know he was on the ground, incapacitated? She left him there to die? Or did she realize she hit something or wasn't sure what it was? She was very drunk. I see it more like a vehicular manslaughter case, to be honest with you.
I do too, but then I think the reality is by her saying, no, we deny, I deny, maybe that's not even on the table.
Yeah, I agree. All right. Let's get folks back into court now for more testimony from Canton Police Officer Steven Saraf, who's testifying that weather conditions the night that victim John O'Keefe was found dead were kind of difficult.
Was that as well?
I would say yes.
Now, at some point after Ms. Reed, the defendant, left the scene, did she come back?
She did.
And do you know how long a period it was that she was gone between when she left and when she came back?
Just a few minutes.
And do you know why she came back?
I don't know.
And when she returned to the scene, who, if anyone, did you speak with her further at that point?
No.
Who, if anyone, did you observe her to be speaking with?
I don't recall.
Now, the initial ambulance that showed up took and transported Mr. O'Keefe, is that correct?
That is correct.
Now, after that ambulance left and Ms. Reed came back to the scene, what, if any, other apparatus from the fire department arrived on scene at that point?
Another ambulance came.
And who, if anyone, went in that ambulance for transport?
They took Ms. Reed to the hospital.
And do you know what hospital that she went to?
I don't recall.
May I have one moment, Your Honor?
Yes.
And, Your Honor, if I may request the lights be dim.
Okay, could we dim them, please?
Ms. Gilman, if I could have exhibit number 8 up on the screen. Thank you very much. Now, Officer Saraf, do you recognize what's depicted up on the screen as exhibit number 8?
Yes.
And what do you recognize as?
It's the house 34 Fairview.
And that's the house that you responded to on that date, is that correct?
That is correct, yep.
And what's contained in that photograph, is that a fair and accurate portrayal of what you observed roughly when you arrived on that date?
Yes.
May I approach the witness, Your Honor?
Yes.
Direct your attention to this. This is just a laser point. Yep. I'm trying not to point it at anybody's eyes. But, basically, this button here, if you just click on that, and that will shine wherever you want it to. Okay. So from this photograph in exhibit number 8, sir, where Mr. O'Keefe's body was when you first arrived, is that visible in this photograph or no?
I would say it would be over more to the left.
Okay, so further off to the left, is that correct?
That's correct.
Before we get to that, just briefly, Ms. Gilman, if I could have exhibit number 13. If you could, please enlarge. Thank you. Now, Officer Saraf, do you recognize what's contained in this exhibit number 13?
It's a street.
Fair enough. May I approach the witness, Your Honor?
Yes. I'm sorry. Let's see.
So what I placed before you as exhibit 13 is that's what's up on the screen?
Yes, this is.
Okay. And is that a fair and accurate portrayal of what Fairview Road looked like around the time that you were dispatched and arrived on scene?
Yes.
Absent the lighting condition, you mentioned it was dark when you arrived, correct?
That is correct.
Okay, so this is sometime after when the sun has come up.
Correct.
If I could ask you to flip to the next exhibit number 14, if I could have that one, Ms. Tillman. And again, officer, what's up on the screen, is that what you have before you as exhibit 14?
Yes.
And you were testifying earlier about sort of footprints in and around where Mr. O'Keefe was, is that correct?
That is correct.
And what's depicted on the screen in exhibit number 14, is that fair and accurate portrayal of the footprints that you were talking about?
Yes.
May I approach the witness, Ron?
Yes.
Well, we do need to hit the pause button right now to bring you this update in the child enticement case that we've been following out of Ohio. Just moments before jury selection was set to begin this morning, defendant Lisa Necrelli accepted a plea deal from the state.
Now, under the deal, she will serve 3 years in prison. She was facing 12.5 years in prison if convicted.
Now, Necrelli was accused of trying to lure a 4-year-old boy from his home while impersonating a child protective services worker. Now, part of the ordeal was caught on the child's family's home surveillance camera.
Our court TV cameras caught up with the parents of the young boy following Necrelli accepting the plea deal. Here is what they had to say.
There was a lot of questions, so we ended up just coming down to we can agree upon
a
3-year sentence. We originally wanted more, but with everything come to fruition that we've had side conversations about, 3 years will give us enough time to do what we need to do.
Along with child enticement, Necrelli was also indicted on burglary and attempted abduction.
Yeah, and the only thing that she pled guilty to was impersonating an officer.
That's right, but 3 years. I think that,
3 years is solid.
It's solid for that. I'm
Yes?
glad.
Yes, all right. We're going to use this time to take a quick break. Officer Saraf continues his testimony about finding the body at the scene. So keep it here on your front row seat to justice.
Welcome back to Court TV Live. I'm Judge Ashley Wilcott.
And I'm Michael Ayala. We are continuing our coverage of the killer or cover-up murder trial in Massachusetts. We've been waiting for this one.
Yes.
Defendant Karen Reed is accused of running over her Boston police officer boyfriend, John O'Keefe, and leaving him to die in the snow.
Canton police officer Steven Saraf is still on the stand. He's been testifying about when he arrived on the scene starting at 6 a.m. and then he was questioning the defendant, and also about weather conditions in the area at the time when he found the body. Let's go back into court for more testimony.
So now I'm showing you what's been marked as Exhibit 18. Thank you, Ms. Gilman. If you could enlarge that just a little bit more. Thank you so much. Now, from this photograph, first and foremost, do you recognize what's depicted up in Exhibit 18 on the screen here?
Yes,
And this is 34 Fairview Road, correct?
that is correct.
And in regard to, you had mentioned some sort of landmarks off to the left side of the property, facing the property from the street, correct?
Yes.
And if you could, using that laser pointer that I've placed up there before you, if you could direct the jury's attention to first those landmarks that you observed. I'm sorry, officer, if you could, while you're...
Oh, sorry.
You could just describe what you're doing.
So there's the flagpole right there, there's a bush there, and right there, I believe, is the fire hydrant.
And so where in relation to this photograph, if you can see it here, was Mr. O'Keefe's body when you first got it?
It's right in this area right here.
Now, if I could turn back just a moment, when you indicated that you were coming up to the scene and you could see the three females sort of waving and Mr. O'Keefe on the ground, correct?
That is correct.
About how far away were you from them when you first observed them or first saw them?
About 20 feet or so.
And when you are driving down Fairview, if you could describe to the jury, where is your direction, sort of, where are you directed? As far as you're driving a vehicle, are you looking straight in front of you, or are you looking out the window, a combination of both, or?
I was looking for the house numbers, trying to find the house where it was, and there was, I saw the motor vehicle parked on the side of the road.
And that sort of leads to my next question, sir. So what did you see first? Did you see the vehicle parked in front of you, or did you see the people off to the side of it?
I saw the vehicle.
May I approach this to retrieve your own?
Yes.
Do you want this?
Yeah, so, Officer Saraf, you had testified earlier in regard to a camera within your cruiser, correct?
That's correct.
And subsequent to that day, have you seen the video of your arrival to the scene from the cruiser camera perspective?
I saw it once.
Okay. And, Your Honor, I would seek to introduce and admit as the next exhibit the cruiser camera stream 1 from cruiser 683.
Or is there an objection?
No, Your Honor.
Okay.
Thank you. I'm sorry, I can get you across. I'm sorry for the back and forth, Mr. Officer, but if I could ask the lights again. Ms. Gilman, if you could play what's now been marked as Exhibit 25. And if you could just pause it right there, Ms. Gilman. So, Officer Saraf, what's up on the screen, is that what you recall as far as the sort of visibility and the roadway conditions when you first left the church parking lot?
Yes.
And this is you sort of leaving from the church parking lot as you're going to 34 Fairview, correct?
Yes.
Now, there are a number of different sort of things up on this screen. There's an indication as far as the speed that the vehicle is going at, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And where is that located, if you could, with the laser pointer there?
Sweet. Whoops, sorry.
Now, along sort of the bottom of that particular video, there's an indication as far as mic, brakes, lights, siren, correct?
Correct.
If those are activated, is there any sort of change in sort of the depiction there? Does it change sort of color or anything like that that you're aware of?
I don't know.
Okay. And the 683 on the bottom right corner, is that the cruiser that you were in that day?
Yes, that's correct.
Now, as far as sort of the top middle of this video, there's a date and a time. Is that correct?
That's correct.
As far as you're aware, that date and time that's up there, that's accurate to when this occurred, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so we're sort of looking in real time, correct?
Correct.
So Ms. Gilman, if you could just let it run from this point. Ms. Gilman, I'm sorry, if you could stop it just briefly. So, Officer Saraf, this road you're traversing at this point, this is Washington Street, is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. And at some point, you're going to then travel through and then take a right onto Fairview, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, if you could, just for the jury's sake, as you approach Fairview and as you're taking that right turn, just direct their attention to the fact that that's when you're turning onto Fairview?
Sure.
Thank you. Ms. Gilman, you can go ahead and continue.
So this right here is Chapman Street. This right here is Fairview.
Ms. Gilman, if you could just pause it there for 1 second. So, officer, similar to as the turn onto Fairview, at some point, if you observe the point at which you believe you sort of illuminated your spotlight on the side of the cruiser, if you could just speak up and draw the jury's attention to that as well.
Okay.
Ms. Gilman, if you could continue.
We need to take a break, but when we return, we will finish up the rest of the testimony for the day. You won't miss a thing. Stay here on Court TV, your front row seat to justice. Canton Police Officer Steven Saraf is wrapping up his testimony for the day in the killer or cover-up murder trial. Let's get you back into court now. He's describing what's seen on his dash cam video when he goes to the scene.
Right about now, I believe I put the spotlight on.
Thank you, sir. I'm sorry, Ms. Gilman, if you could just sort of run it from this point to about the 4-minute mark, and then I'd ask you to.
there.
Right there. Now, Officer Saraf, this is, you were testifying earlier as far as the vehicle in front of you that you observed first, and then sort of the parties off to your left as far as the three females waving and Mr. O'Keefe on the ground, correct?
That is correct.
And if you could, just using that laser pointer, direct the jury's attention to number one, where the vehicle is that you observed in front of you, and then number two, where you observed the three females and Mr. O'Keefe on the ground.
So here's the vehicle right there, and the females are right there.
Thank you, sir. Now, Ms. Gilman, if you wouldn't mind just running this straight through until about 7.5 minutes or so. Just one moment, Your Honor.
Sure.
I'm sorry. Stop speaking to me. I have no further questions to this witness, Your Honor.
All right. Will there be a cross-exam? Because this may be a good time to stop if there is.
There will be a cross-examination.
Okay. So, jurors.
All right, there will be a cross-examination.
Yeah,
He was pretty
one.
adamant about that. That's right. All right. Joining us to discuss, former prosecutor Tommy Pope is still with us. Tommy, you know, as you see her reaction there, it seems sincere. When we heard about her reaction at the hospital, seems sincere. So the thing that jumps out at me thus far is a lot of things can be true at the same time, right? She could be surprised by what she's finding. She may also know that she hit something earlier, but not thinking that this had to do with any kind of death and still not being sure about how he actually died. So all those things could be true.
I think you're absolutely correct. I was thinking, I wish we could have heard her supposed confession of it was my fault. If it was there, they certainly didn't bring it out or I missed it. But yeah, she could be upset. It's like you alluded to earlier, Michael. It's can be an involuntary manslaughter or recklessness or something, maybe, you know, and under different states have different categories of murder, but it could be something lesser. She could have thought she hit him, maybe thought she hit him, didn't care. Maybe they're arguing. Maybe she's afraid now that I hit him, I need to get out of here. You know, there's a numerous explanations, like you said, where everything can be true at the same time. But we're finally moving forward. I did see both of you laugh that will there be a cross-examination? Heck, if you get the end of the day and get all night to study on it, I would say yes, even if tomorrow morning I changed my mind. Just because that's always a good time, you know?
Let them know it's coming. Let the jury go home and think about it as well.
Absolutely.
You know
and the other two, they didn't cross the family members.
No.
Probably not surprising. This one, they're going to go after it. All right. Thank you to Tommy Pope for being with us, of course.